Responding to increasing climate and disaster risks requires investments that are explicitly focused on the poor and vulnerable people in communities that are disproportionately exposed to natural hazards and climate change. These investments are critical in reducing the loss of community and household assets and protecting lives from shocks and stresses. Many of the urban poor spend more money on basic services because of limited access compared to households in communities with better access and earning higher incomes. Damage or loss of these community-level infrastructures can also have major disruptions in their lives and may further affect their health or livelihoods. On the other hand, social cohesion among urban poor communities, as well as the local knowledge on disaster and climate risk faced by their community, can contribute to the identification of context-specific solutions that help build their resilience. What is a community? For the purpose of this video, community refers to urban poor neighborhoods and settlements. Strengthening resilience at this level requires building the residents' capacity for collective action while improving community-level interventions along three policy areas: community infrastructure, public health, and livelihood. Community interventions refer to both structural and non-structural components, both of which contribute to public health and livelihood by minimizing the impacts of climate change and disasters. A key element in strengthening resilience at the community level is investing in community infrastructure by integrating disaster-proofing technologies. The Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery identifies 6 different types of community infrastructure: connective infrastructure such as roads and footpaths, protective infrastructures such as drainage systems and mangrove reforestation areas, socio-economic structures such as small marketplaces and livelihood training centers, water and sanitation lifelines such as rainwater harvesting systems and drainage lines, energy lifelines such as community-based energy sources and renewable energy facilities, and communication lifelines such as community-based early warning systems and radio systems. Structural resilience measures need to be considered in both infrastructure projects and nature-based solutions to reduce the urban poor's exposure and vulnerability to hazards. Building or upgrading existing community infrastructures can increase the resilience of urban poor communities to minimize residents' exposure to hazards and/or mitigate the impacts of climate change. Let's take a look at the RICE program, which included Makassar in Indonesia as one of its pilot sites. It uses a community-driven, nature-based approach to address water, sanitation, and health issues in urban poor settlements. Facilities are co-designed with communities to ensure that interventions fit the residents' needs. They are also provided with information on environmental health impacts. Interventions are dependent on the specific issues experienced by residents. For example, one urban poor community may implement sanitation facilities to protect them from contaminants that may affect their health. Another may be provided with access to safe drinking water. Another example is the Urban Governance and Infrastructure Improvement Project in Bangladesh. It supported resilient connective infrastructure to reduce vulnerability to environmental degradation, poverty, and natural hazards, which led to enhanced economic activities and higher incomes of residents. The project also supported the formation of urban poor groups that focused on slum improvement and community development. As we can see in the examples, engaging the urban poor is a key ingredient in building resilience at the community level. The non-structural component of community infrastructure are investments that empower the urban poor to make informed decisions and work with various stakeholders, including local governments and the private sector. What does empowerment mean? In this context, the urban poor and the vulnerable people are not considered as passive recipients, but rather as active partners in resilience-building interventions. Giving them opportunities to decide, implement, and manage the climate-related interventions will make the impacts to protect them from hazards and disasters more sustainable and long-lasting. The coherence of the community groups with strong social networks can easily share information and act collectively in response to shocks and stresses. Community members may be organized into groups. Alternatively, existing groups such as community-based organizations and women's groups may be tapped to ensure that the urban poor are an integral part of the decision-making process. Non-structural support to the urban poor at the community level also includes livelihood assistance. The Urban Governance and Infrastructure Improvement Project in Bangladesh mentioned earlier provided microfinance support for women's self-employment. However, community-level solutions are not sufficient to ensure that the urban poor will be resilient against climate change. Complementary interventions need to be put in place at the household and city levels to address the root causes of vulnerability, maximize existing resources, and minimize risk. This concludes Video 4 of the Learning Video series on building the resilience of the urban poor. In this video, you learned what are examples of structural and non-structural resilience measures that can be implemented at the community level, and how empowerment can contribute to community resilience. Video 5 will provide an overview of how you can build the resilience of the urban poor at the city level.